If I have a shitty day, embracing it, that's just life. You just gotta pick it up and move on. Like, don't let it hold you back. Just because you had one moment that you think defines you, in the long run, it really doesn't. What I'm working on is staying in the moment and staying happy with who I am and accepting everything that happens.
Excellence is about standing, and excellence is a requirement for your dream to come true.
It's not like a very specific thing. I just kind of remember getting into it just because my sister, she was the first one to join diving. So I have an older sister and then a brother, and then I'm the youngest. So my sister, she went to the pool, she saw it, she joined, and then my brother joined, and then I just kind of like followed along because I was like, what else am I going to do? Everyone's going to the pool. I might as well just hop on board. So I followed with them. But I think just like the earliest memories was just seeing photos that can kind of like pop back in my head. It's just me being like an actual infant trying to learn how to swim. Because I was started when I was 4, so I like wasn't a strong swimmer. So whenever I would like jump off the board, they'd have to pull me in with a pool noodle because I could get to the top. I just wasn't great at getting to the side. So probably just like the struggles of swimming. That was my main one.
Yeah. So was it, you said at 4, but you already started like jumping in the pool at 4?
Yeah, that was like when I first started diving. Was at 4 years old.
Nice. So did you have, like you said, your brothers and sisters, like your siblings? Were any of those like more on the competitive side, or was it just a lot of fun to start with?
My sister, she went to university, so she was good with the competitive side. So she went to Texas A&M, which was a school in the States. And then my brother, he quit probably like 5 years after. And then he went the more Canadian route and joined hockey. But I stuck with diving. So we had 2 divers and 1 hockey player.
Have you stuck with diving from the get go? Were you like a sports type of person, or were you just like having fun on the diving side, and then you're like, you know what, like hockey and whatever it might be, not really for me?
Yeah, hockey. The only time I ever tried it was at someone's birthday party. And I liked it, but not enough to join it. So I used to play soccer as well. So I was pretty good at soccer, but then when it came down to like getting more competitive and spending more time on one side, I stuck to diving because soccer here, it was good in the meantime. It would get me, I'd travel to Vancouver or something for a competition, but with diving, you travel the world with it. So I was like, which one sounds more exciting? So I did diving.
And so you said 4 years old. You keep diving for fun. Did you have, or is there like a diving community where you kind of starting watching like Olympic Games, World Championship? You said like you remember pictures and stuff, but yeah, when did it turn into more than just diving for the fun of being with your siblings, and actually diving because like you could go into competition and win, and try to get better all the time?
I think like the first turning point for me was like was it grade 9? I think it was grade 9, where throughout like elementary school and middle school, it's one of those things you go to practice after school. It's good, it's fun, you see all your friends. But then once I joined high school and went to my first international competition, which was in Germany, I did really well there. And I was like, wait, like, period, I kind of have a chance at this. Like, this is good. And so I kind of stuck more with like being more competitive and looking at it as like this is something that I could see in my future instead of just something I do on the side. And so I think that mindset of like winning an international medal at my first international competition definitely made me see things for the long run and think higher of like, oh, like this could actually work out for me.
So unless you have amazing, which I don't doubt you have, natural capabilities, you don't get to like an international event and maybe win that international event without taking the sport very seriously, right? So
Yeah.
even before probably winning that first step, it must have kind of clicked in you that it was something that you were good at naturally, right?
I think yeah, I would view it as like, oh yeah, like I'm not bad at the sport. I'm doing well. But I also like wasn't super competitive with it, like mentally. Like I'd go to the competitions and be like, yes, I'm at a competition, yay. But mostly it's like, oh, I get to see my friends and things like that from other places in Canada. And so when I would do well, it was like exciting, but it was just kind of I don't think I like looked at it as much of like a very competitive thing. I just thought it was
Mhm.
a reward for putting in work and everything and showing up. But then once I actually was able to be on the junior national team, that's when I was like, oh, I got to lock in. This is real life. I'm doing pretty good with this.
Yeah, and so how old were you? Because you said initially the goal was it was more like a social event to go and meet friends, and well, it
Yeah.
turns out that you also have fun and you're not bad at it.
Yeah.
And so you said as you get into the junior national team, is that the moment where it kind of clicked and you had that tipping point? You're like, oh, it's not just like social fun, blah blah blah. It's my main stuff now, and like studies is going to be like on the back burner and things like that.
Yeah, that I think that was the main point because then I traveled a lot more and realized that I was diving. I was putting more focus onto diving than I was school. So I would miss a bunch of school and have to catch up when I got back. So I think that was the main point of me being like, okay, like school was my side mission at the time. And I was like, okay, I'll focus on diving. Like that's something that's giving me more things. I like traveling more than I like homework. So that was positive.
Yeah. Was that an easy choice to make? Did it just happen naturally in a sense? Because and there are so few sports where you can make a living off of hockey player typically if you become a pro and like highest level of pro, because even in development league you don't really make a life out of it. So like lots of sports that we see at the Olympics and all that we admire, you don't make a life out of it,
Yeah.
right? So was it an easy decision for you to kind of make that call, the younger self, and say, oh, that's going to be my main thing. I'm going to push it as far as I can. And even though I have to put school and put studies on the side, and I'll get back to it later, maybe.
At the time, it was like I'd still go to classes and everything, but it was just harder for me to catch up. So, like math and everything, when you're not in the classroom, obviously it's harder to try and pick that up. But the other classes where it's just kind of it's busy work, where you just have to do a bunch of stuff just to like pass. But like math and everything, that was a killer for me. So like I would do like online courses for that, so I'd kind of work through like winter sessions or summer sessions, but it wasn't like I was fully just dropping out of school to focus on diving. It was just more, I cared more for diving than I did school, which, at the time was like in high school and stuff, you're like, yeah, I'd much rather be bouncing around than sitting in a classroom doing absolutely nothing but math. That's crazy. So yeah, I would say it was a good, I'd say maybe 80-20%. More 80 for diving, 20 for school,
Oh, that's quite a lot. Yeah.
which kind of got rough at the end because like coming to graduation and stuff, I needed credits. So that last like year and semester, I was grinding. I had to finish like I think it was like two different things of math in that last year. And I already hate math, so I was really grinding on that one. It was devastating, but we pulled through. Graduated on time. My biggest
Nice.
victory.
Well done. Biggest success so far? Is that it? Graduating?
Honestly, I would say yeah, graduating high school and university. I
Nice.
would say
Sweet.
honestly, because based off of my high school wasn't focused on the school aspect, and then going to the States for diving, I definitely thought it was going to be really rough for me, but I graduated on time. That was my main goal. When I started in 2020 as a freshman, my main goal was just to pass. I was going to pass everything and graduate on time, which I did. And going into it,
Nice.
I did not think that was going to happen.
Nice. And so when you made that like choice to go, like you said, 80-20, mainly focusing on diving, that's pretty much when you get into the junior national team. Um, when that decision is made in a sense, and you know that's your way, that's your avenue, and you're going to spend the next 15 years, let's hope, or 20 years of your life chasing that. What is it exactly that you're chasing?
Mostly just the Olympics was my main goal. So that's like the biggest competition for any athlete. Like the biggest dream
Mhm.
is to compete at the Olympic Games. That was my main focus, and also just kind of trying to build a career and a name within the sport. So I think taking those aspects in like my career, that was the biggest ones for me. And so after high school, I took a gap year to focus on training for the Olympics. And then obviously COVID and all that happened.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was thinking, like, for long-term stuff, I need to also get an education as well. So after I graduated, I took the gap year and was looking at schools. And then after that gap year, I went to Tennessee to go train and get an education.
And so purely on the diving side, I would say is you said the Olympics. What happened in 2024? Up until the moment you make it your life goal, up until this year and the upcoming years. I'm just gonna rephrase because I'm a bit of a freak when it comes to like setting targets, setting goals, long term ones. Like, oh, I want to be there in 5 years, but then you also have to wake up every morning with like that one goal, short term stuff, like quick wins and stuff that make you move
Mhm.
forward. How do you approach like such like targets, long, medium, short term? How do you go about that, and how did you set those objectives leading to 2024 and the Olympics in Paris, and maybe leading to the next Olympics in 2028?
So, like, for like my short-term goals, I like really focused on making sure I was in a routine. And so that has its positives and its negatives because
Hmm.
when you get into a routine, it can get so boring and brain numbing, but at the same time you feel so accomplished because you know you're getting all your tasks
Yeah.
done. So it's hard to kind of switch from doing something that you're stuck in for me right now 4 years and then not doing anything. So I think just like having the small wins of one, completing everything on your timetable, your routine, but also kind of taking time for yourself, like finding those little moments in time where you don't always have to be training. You don't always have to be like in the game. You're allowed to go out and have fun. You can go have a drink, you can go party, like being able to take a social aspect of everything and make sure that you can take your social life and your sport life and have two different categories from it because like I noticed a lot that when I didn't take those mental breaks or the time off, I was so stuck in that routine where I'd be going to bed at night and I would be like thinking about my dives. I'd be thinking about like what dives I needed to do, what positions I need to do, or what corrections. And it's like, am I a crazy person? Like, why am I insane? So, definitely for like the small and like short term goals, definitely being able to separate social life and your sport life because that's going to help you in the long run to try and make your long-term goals reachable. So I think that that was probably my main thing is focusing on the separation of both.
It resonates a lot. And what I said before we started recording was I don't try to make parallels, but I see parallels between the business world in sense and sports like elite sports. For me, like the week business wise mostly go from Monday to Friday, and I try to push myself to rest and chill and do other stuff on the weekend. um, but it's funny because I'm all in during the week, and then we get to Friday. I'm like, oh damn, I'm fucking hot right now. I'm doing a bunch of stuff, and like, oh, the weekend is coming. It shouldn't come, right? I have so many stuff to do. I can keep going.
Yeah.
Then I gotta push myself into like social and seeing friends and relaxing and doing other stuff. And then Sunday and Monday morning comes, and like, oh damn, I don't want to go back. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so tired. Why would I keep pushing so hard every week? And then it's Monday, like 11 a.m., and I'm all in, all in. But the transition, the flip, just takes a toll. You have to push yourself to force yourself to go into the other mode because you're kind of comfortable just all in one very single mode. And once I'm chill, I'm fucking chill, and I don't want
Yeah.
to work. But then getting back into that mindset is like it takes twice a week that kind of shift. That is, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah. And then that's the thing too is because right now I've graduated and I took the summer off of diving. So once I graduated, I was like, okay, like I need to kind of focus on what I want to do. Do I want to keep diving or do I want to start life? So I'm kind of in that situation right now where I don't know which path to take. And coming off of 4 years of being in a routine, focusing on sports, school, and social life, and now just doing nothing, I feel so lazy and so just like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? I'm so lost. So I think it's like kind of the same thing that I'm trying to do is make a routine throughout my day, even though I'm like I'm not looking for a job. I just want to like relax. but it's like that lazy thing that I'm feeling where I've done so much for so long. Now I'm just kind of dead. And then trying to find the motivation to go back into something is harder because I don't have any goals for it. It's just kind of there and present where
Yeah.
I used to be able to have the goals and the short-term goals and keep busy with so many things. So it's such a weird transition right now that I'm stuck in.
Yeah, and it's maybe also because it's reactive in a sense. It's like you said, you're there feeling lazy. It's not like you didn't maybe plan it ahead of time. Like, oh, like September 2024 will be post Olympics, so I'm gonna have to prepare for that, because you were basically just focused on that one objective. That did you kind of forget that there's life after it, and it's gonna keep going, and then you're stuck in there now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing because I was focusing on making the Olympics and
Yeah.
with diving. So at what year was that? 20, I think it was the 2023 Winter Nationals. Yeah, so that competition, or maybe it was 2024, one of those ones. But it was like the main competition was World Championships. And so you had to qualify, get first or second place at that competition to go to World Championships. And at World Championships, that was the final competition before the Olympics to open up a spot for your country, for the board you're going to compete in. And so I got third at Winter Nationals and didn't qualify for World Championships. And so the other two divers that went, they competed at Worlds, but they didn't open up a spot for Canada on the springboard. So now there was no spot at the Olympics for men's 3 meter for our country. So basically after World Championships, because I was watching online and I saw that, it was just such like a weird switch of of really trying and hoping and putting in so much work for maybe wanting an outcome or a result like the Olympic Games, or even just competing to try and qualify a spot for yourself for the Olympics. And just in like one competition, it's all over and there's really nothing you can do. And you feel so lost, and there's so many different like options and paths and things coming at you where it's very overwhelming. And that was for like the Canadian team, but I still had to compete at school. So I was going through trying to process the fact that all the stuff that I was trying to do with my short-term goals to reach my long-term goal was now done, and trying to process all of that while still competing at the collegiate level was so difficult and so tough, knowing that my collegiate career was almost done. So, because I was a senior last year, or like this past summer.
Yeah.
And so realizing that once I'm done competing at the college level, like that's it, unless I choose to keep diving. But then at the time, I also didn't know if I wanted to keep training for another 4 years and put my life on pause again just for something like this to happen again. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm just kind of
So
floating, not knowing.
yeah. So what is your week looking like these days? Are you back to school in a sense? You said your collegiate career was reaching an end, but do you keep studying? Do you keep busy? Like you said, you don't seem to be looking for a job. Where are you staying right now, and where do you see yourself at like Christmas time, and then let's say next summer?
Yeah, so right now, like I graduated in May, so I'm done school.
Okay.
I'm done diving in the States. So right now, basically my week is I go to weights, just to like kind of stay fit a little bit. And then I think it was like 3 weeks ago I went back to the pool and started training again to get back into it. But I didn't have a set schedule of me being like, oh, I'm really going to commit to this because I
Mhm.
don't know if I want to stay with it. So just kind of getting back into that mindset of like what I should do. But I'm also kind of taking the time to go and travel and be able to not rely so heavily on a timetable. Like if I want to go to LA or if I want to go vacation somewhere, like I can. So just like being able to have those options open is kind of been nice, but at the same time it's stressful because I'm putting so much pressure on myself to try and jump right into something instead of just taking the time that I haven't really had in all these other years to just be present and live in the moment. And so I'm so worried about everything that's coming up that it's hard to really just stay where I am and be grateful that, I have a roof. I don't have to worry about, paying rent because I'm staying at my parents right now. So just being able to like chill out, relax, and stay present is one of those things that is one of the hardest things to try and do.
Yeah, and like you said, you tried and went back to training, but if you don't train with a specific goal, target, whatever event in mind, it's probably also hard to kind of be your best self in a sense, because your training is, if it's just for the sake of training, well, it's like me going to the gym, it's like staying fit, like you said. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
it's a good objective, but if you go on the board, it's not just to stay fit, right? It's because you have to have something in mind in order to be
Yeah,
able to keep competing and keep waking up and keep suffering and keep doing
exactly.
stuff, right?
Yeah, and
So hopefully, yeah, go for it, sorry.
I was gonna say, and that's one of the things too, is coming from college where I'm surrounded by a bunch of people my age, and now coming back here and going to the club team, and it's all like little kids, like 10 and 11-year-olds, and I'm like, oh my, am I like a grandpa right now? I'm old as shit. Like, what do I do? So that's also hard to try and process mentally. So
Yeah. I saw you were. I think that there seems to be a trend also in the diving world. Like you're active on social media, probably more on TikTok, which I'm not active on, but I see on Instagram you have a bunch of followers, and you seem to care and yeah, take good care of like your personal brand in a sense. You're very active. You're doing fun stuff. You're doing serious stuff, and I've seen other divers kind of in the same vein. Is there a trend? Is that something that you guys and gals try to do to just add a revenue stream maybe when it comes to like content creation and stuff like that? Is it just trying to make the sport a bit more visible to like Mr. and Mrs. Nobody? What is the yeah? Is that on purpose, or is it just happening because you're a funny guy, good looking, and turns out it works?
I think a lot of divers, like we do try to promote diving and things like that. But with my content, I feel like when I was, more active in the pool and consistent with that, I would post more stories about diving. But my content, I feel like it's more like fun and not about sport as much.
Yeah.
It's more diva. I would say it's more diva content rather than like the athletic side. But I'll throw some hints. I'll like sprinkle in some athletic stuff here and there. But I would say it's more like focusing on the diva aspect, just having
Okay.
fun.
But yeah. So and do you see, or do you think you see that your following is more like attached to it, or they just kind of initially follow the athlete and they're like, oh, it's actually funny, and I'm gonna keep following and just liking because he's doing stuff differently than the other batch that are just posting about like results and good races and stuff.
I think so. A lot of my followers came from when it was, yeah, last year we had the Pan Am Games in Chile. And so when I went there, I was just, posting my regular stuff that I would do here, but down there. And they loved it. So I got this name called Ila Queso. And so they would call me like Ila Queso on TikTok and Instagram. And I was like, what is Ila Queso? And so it's basically just like you're the cheese, which is kind of slang for like slay, like diva, like you ate that up. And so I branded myself down there as Ila Queso. So I have a bunch of followers from Chile,
Yeah,
and
interesting.
yeah, and so a couple months ago I went back down to go visit them, and so I went back to go have a little party for their national holiday. So I was there for a week and saw everyone again, and I'm thinking that maybe I'll go back down maybe in like a month, but for longer this time, not just for a week. I might stay there because I don't really have anything else I'm doing right now, so I'm like might as
as,
well
as part
go.
of the recovery, thinking
Exactly.
about the future process.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't have anything happening up here. I'd rather go somewhere where I like being. Chile's beautiful. I love the people and the culture and the community. So might as well go go chill there for a bit.
Yeah. Are there moments, you seem, you're super smiley. I don't think the smile left your face since we started. You just seem to be naturally like this. Do you have like tougher moments, especially now, or maybe in the past, when you're when you're in this process or like think about what's next, do you have like moments of just being more like negative and thinking more in a vicious circle than a virtuous circle in a sense? And if it does, how do you have like a mental process of like getting out of those darker zones?
Yeah, I think like recently the biggest one was probably the situation with the Olympics. That was really tough because I did want to take the time to just kind of stop and relax and breathe, but I still had competitions at school, so everything was just go, go, go. And the thing that had made me the most upset and the most mentally strained was something that I had to keep doing and reminding myself of every day. And so I don't know. I think that when I was stuck in like just this really sad place, I think just being able to realize that one, I'm like more than my sport, because that's what a lot of it stemmed from, was just
Mhm.
being in it for so long. You don't really know who your true identity is. It's like trying to find yourself outside of the sport. And so I realized that that was coming up a lot quicker and sooner than I expected, because I was graduating in May and that was in February when all that happened. And so after May, it was just going to be real life. So I think trying to focus on being able to see that it once I am done diving, like I'm more than my sport, I'm able to just chill, relax, and focus on myself more than trying to get place myself in this routine where it's going to be something where I'm always going to be unsure of what's next. So
Mhm.
I think being able to put little like pinpoints of like confidence where you have this coming up, you have something to look forward to. Just because you had one moment that you think defines you, in the long run, it really doesn't. Like, when you go out drinking and you get anxiety and you're like, oh my gosh, everyone saw me like do something super cringe or something crazy at the bar. Like you're so focused on that internally, but in the long run, like who gives a fuck? Like you had a good time in the moment, but like that's not gonna define you. So I
Yeah.
think it's just being able to like what I'm working on is staying in the moment and staying happy with who I am and accepting everything that happens. Like if I have a shitty day or a shitty situation that happens, like embracing it. That's just life. You just got to pick it up and move on. Like don't let it
Mhm.
hold you back.
Do you think that identity building, I think it very much, I heard it loud, this building your identity outside of sports. Do you think that's something that should be built up earlier with like coaches and stuff? They should know that, when you have like a 10, 15, 10, 11-year-old kid that is just pushing so hard in the sports and he has like a clear path to becoming like an international elite athlete, that there should be work, there's work to be done on like building a real identity outside of sports, even though the sports is the focus for like 15 years. But like you said, and fortunately enough, in a sense, you get to that point and you're still what, 20-ish years old. But if someone has a much longer career and ends up at 35 not knowing who he or she is, probably tougher to get out of when you're 35 and you've only known like one thing, you being the cyclist, athlete, diver, swimmer, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think there is work to be done and work that could have been done on your side and for any young up and coming athletes?
Yeah, I definitely think that like knowing what I know now, I would have definitely loved to be able to dive into more of finding myself and
Hmm.
separating myself from sport. But at that age, it's just, you don't really know. It's just something you're doing. And you don't realize that when you do it for so long and that's always on your brain for like the entire time that you grow up in like the most important stages of your development, and that's all you're doing. And then when you get to a stage where it's time to retire and you haven't focused on trying to build yourself, it's such like a weird feeling that I can't really describe it. It's almost like you're like dying, or like there's a part of you that's dead. Like you're starting from nothing even though you're old now. So I think that yeah, there should definitely be something where you're able to start off like in that competitive cycle where you're able to find yourself and take the time, or like have programs, or have something set up where no matter what, like you can be able to take the time for your social and mental health, just to go out and explore those other things, rather than just feel like you're trapped in this one thing that you feel is going to define you for the rest of your life. Because growing up, all I was known as was like the diver. It's like, oh, the diver, or he dives,
Hmm.
the diver. And like that's pinned into your head. So you're like, oh, I'm the diver. Like that's me. It's not like, oh, I'm this and I'm good at this stuff. It's you put yourself in the mind where I'm the diver and that's what I'm good at. That's what I'm going to do. And then when it comes time to not being the diver, you're like, cool, what am I?
Yeah,
Who else is she? What's going on here?
yeah.
So,
And once again, I love what you said here. It very much aligns with pretty much everybody's perspective. We always say like work life balance or sports life balance, probably
mhm,
for you. But at the end of the day, it's the people that know you for not for what you're mainly known for. I mean, most of the people that I see every single day see me as the guy, the business type of person. My
mhm,
girlfriend and a few limited number of friends know me for Leo, the guy who has like loose sweatpants on the weekend, drinks beers,
yeah,
plays board games, and is sleepy pretty much all the weekend because he worked hard. But not knowing me on the business side. But the biggest chunk of my circle probably knows me as the business person, and probably the biggest chunk of your circle knows you as the diver. But you
mhm,
have those few friends. I think is very hard and also very important to keep at a distance from that one thing. Specifically, people that we go to the college on the weekend with, they're like, "Oh, how is work?" Like, doing all right. So
yeah,
now let's just do this. I make a specific point of not getting into that, because then if they say, "Oh, it's interesting," and they want to ask more questions, then I'll become also that part of me will become more visible to them. And if
mhm,
ever I have to quit, I'm fired, or whatever happens, and there's not the podcast anymore, not the business anymore, then I'll be like an empty shell in a sense. But if
yeah,
they see me as the, again, loose sweatpants and whatever guy, job, no job, whatever it might be, I'll be the same to them, right? And I make a specific point. And it's probably what you kind of see also. It's like those few people that see you for the non-diver are like extremely are like crucial to helping you kind of rebuild
yeah,
if you decide to just completely move away from diving.
exactly. It's like, have you seen the movie The Substance?
Nope. I'll
Okay, it's
just
like,
take a note of that.
yeah, you should watch The Substance. It's crazy, but it's basically like you switch bodies every seven
Yeah.
days. So that's what I need is the substance. That's what I gotta take. I gotta have a stunt double in my place, 1 week on, 1 week off.
Yeah, that's probably it's the idea of what we said before, like switching, like, oh, being social with friends, no diving, being the diver. And it
Yeah,
takes effort to move from one to the other, just because they are like two bodies, two souls, two mindset, two stuff that need to be like very segregated, otherwise they'll end up mixing and one will take over. And as soon as you lose that identity or you decide to move from it, then you're nobody in a sense. Yeah.
exactly. So
um,
lost.
um, Surprisingly enough for you, the I do always a bit of research before the call, the discussion. One of the main articles that I found, which I find interesting, was not like a, well, it's called outsports.com, and I think it went deep into yourself, not on the
Mhm.
diver side. It links naturally to the world of diving and all that. You're very active. You said being more like you're seen as the diva on Instagram more than the diver. You're very active on the queer community and all that. Is that something that has been, has it had an impact on your career per se, or is that something that you've always kept like segregated or separated? And yeah, do you want to kind of talk a bit more about how this is approached? I think um, anyone coming out in like the diving world or swimming world is completely different from like football, basketball, hockey, where they people make a big thing out of it, maybe because those sports are just more in the media in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, this I was just happy to see that it was not sports related, the main stuff that we read about you, which I thought was fantastic for once. And yeah, is that something that has had an impact on your career and just your daily life?
I think that, yeah, like when because I never like fully like came out or anything, like made
Hmm.
a big announcement. It was just kind of one day I'd be just bringing it up into conversations. Like when I told my one friend, this was, I don't even know what year it was, but we were going to a competition and we're walking through the airport and we were in Germany and there was like the security people or the border security. We went through. I'm like, they were so hot, and she's like, what? And I'm like, those guys were so hot. It was just like things like that. I just kind of like flow into it, and then also just how I was as a person, like how I would like do my thing. You're just like you don't really need to ask like, oh, he's gay, period. So I think just being able to be confident in myself and like my identity with that aspect, I think that's kind of played a role within my career of not only like helping myself and in sport too, of just like being confident is like helping other people. And
Hmm.
so just being able to feel like a safe place for someone to talk to, or if they're having any issues or they're questioning things, like I'm always open, want to help people and talk to them. So I think within the diving world and the platform that I've been given with that, I think it definitely helps play a role with making more awareness and also bringing more people to feel like safe and comfortable with who they are and not to hold back with anything. So I think the diving aspect has helped give me the platform so that I'm able to help share and do things like that.
Nice. Um, if you had the next 20 seconds with 10-year-old Bryden, what would you tell him? And do you think he would listen?
Gosh, yeah. 20 seconds to tell 10-year-old Bryden. I think that I would tell him to be more confident with what I want to do. Like tell myself to stand my ground and be confident in my decisions and don't let people persuade me over with what they think is best. Because what I'm going to do is what I think is right and I don't need to second guess anything. So I think being more confident and standing my ground and saying my piece.
Yeah, nice. Um, I hope we'll have like a follow-up chat or at least follow-up text in a few months. I would really like to know where you end up in your like ongoing reflection. If you'll be in South America, just living your best life at some
Being a
point.
diva in South
Uh,
America.
yeah, we want to see where you go from there and what's next for you.
Yeah.
Um, who would you say in the world of diving or just an athlete in general, who would be one person that you think of right now that you think would be interesting to hear on the podcast with like a great story like yours to tell?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say, I mean, the obvious answer is Tom Daly. He's great, and now he's just retired because I went to his retirement party last weekend. So I think that would be a great interview. Um, but also, I think probably some more divers. Maybe Kaylee McKay would be good. That would be a
Mhm.
good one. I'll message her and be like, "Hey, heads up, girl." Um,
Perfect.
but I think she would have a lot to say, especially with her career and the things that she's been through. And or Margot Erlam. They both have very good stories. So
Perfect. So that's a good list. They'll have to go through, and hopefully you can say a few words, and hopefully they'll join.
yeah, perfect.
Um, last question, and you see it behind me. That's purely for fun. Once again, I've tried to build some sort of a wall with gears and stuff from the previous athlete. There are a few like hats, cap, whatever the name,
Yeah,
from Finley Knox and Tessa Chapruja, swimmers, not divers. I had Cedric Fofana actually on the podcast, but I don't think he remembered to have one of his gears. But is there anything that you can think of that will fit somewhere on this wall, or actually the other wall, which is here and it's kind of keeps going along the office here?
I would say you need a chamois.
What is that? I don't
It's
have the English for that.
it's what all the divers use. It's like basically this is our our pride and joy right here is our chamois. This is the little towels that we use to dry off in between each dive. Every
Okay,
single diver has a chamois.
yeah. Okay,
So
very like
you need to
very
get one of these bad boys. This
absorbent.
is
Perfect. That would be great.
yeah. These are like our if divers ever had a binky, this is what it is.
Okay, that's like the I would say the lucky charm type of stuff that you need to have with you. It's useful, but it's also like yeah, brings luck, right?
Yeah, everyone has one. It's what they use every single practice, between every single dive. It's like a different body part that you need.
Extra outside of body type of parts.
Exactly.
Sweet. Very cool. Thank you so much for your time,
Of
Bryden.
course.
We went on the upper part of what I said usually a conversation is. I think we covered a bunch of stuff, and I'm very curious to know where you'll no where you'll end up in a couple of months once you've had time to talk to your inner self and see what's next. So I'll be curious to hear about you in the future.
Yeah, I'll have to let you know.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much for
Thank
your
you
time.
so much for having me.
What can we wish you for the next let's say for the next year?
Good luck.
Luck,
Pretty much.
you'll get the luck. Just yeah, I'm
I'll
sure luck will
manifest.
happen.
Will manifest for me.
Yes, that's the right thing. Perfect. Thank you so much, Bryden. Have a
Perfect.
great rest of the day, rest of the week, and rest of the
You
year
too.
also.
Yes, you
Thank
as
you.
well.
Bye.
Bye.